friends. We are back here with the programmable logic controllers, which are mostly known as programmable controllers for the reasons I have already discussed. This PLC, how it operates in a sequential mode, what are the various specifications which are required, how it communicates with other devices, all these things shall be discussed in this video session one by one. Coming to the first part of it, that is PLC operation, we will be discussing the basic function of a typical PLC. What it does is that it reads all the field input devices, and that is done through a certain input interface. After this step, it goes to the second step. It executes the user program which is stored in the application memory. Then, based on whatever control scheme that has been programmed by the user, it turns the field output devices on or off, or perform whatever control is necessary for the process application. So this thing we will be understanding diagrammatically, making use of two different slides to understand how this operation happens. This process of sequentially reading the inputs, executing the program in memory, and updating the outputs, it is known as scanning. This entire thing is a cyclic process. It is called scanning. We also perform some other operations in between, like we go in for, let us say, diagnostics and so on and so forth. We also keep certain portion of this scan as idle because we want some time buffering to happen. So we may not go into all those fine aspects at this moment of time, but just to tell you that this entire process is known as scanning. How the scan looks like, as you can see from here, the scan primarily begins from here, and it first takes the input. It just takes the input. You can also say that it begins from here, even if this is not wrong. So whatsoever is the data available, it first outputs the data to the field and then immediately takes the input from the field. So this entire thing, it starts with what we call it as input output cycle. So it's outputting here and it is inputting. The cycle begins with inputting the data, and as per the data, program is run making use of the data. The logic is applied, and the output of this ultimately, after keeping the entire thing idle for the purpose of timing, and we output the data from here. So this is one complete cycle. As you can see that the program of PLC, it runs rung by rung from top to the bottom, as you have seen in the ladder diagram. Usually all the outputs are updated based on the status of the internal registers, and the input, it's they are checked corresponding to whatsoever is the input register is updated from the input field devices. We take the data from the field devices, it goes to the input table. Input table is nothing but set of input registers. Similarly, we have these input table available in the input registers. We have output table also, which is outcome of the program. The input goes to the program and the output of program goes to the output table, and from the output table it goes to the output field devices. This is how the entire thing happens. Only after all IOs have been resolved, the program is executed, the output is given to the field, the input is taken from the field, and the program is then executed. When I say program, it means the user program, which is programmed by the user, normally in the form of ladder diagram. So this process runs in an endless cycle, And the important point to note is that the time it takes to finish one cycle is called scan time. This is called scan time. We will discuss more about scan time in the following slides. Friends, when this PLC is running, the scanning process includes four phases, and these four phases will be discussed one by one. The first phase is that we read the input scan. The second phase is that as per the scanned inputs, we execute the program. The third phase is, this is what I said is a very important phase, that we have to perform diagnostics on all the functional modules. All the communication ports are checked in between in every scan, so that if at all there is any error, we don't want the PLC to output something to the field devices without checking for that everything is in order. Once it is established that everything is in order, only then the output of the program, it goes to the actual field devices. So that becomes phase 4. We can call it as output scan, and this output scan immediately goes back to phase 1. So that is how you can say this is one cycle and second cycle and third cycle. It continues like that. So as I have explained you, we have phase 1 is input scan, phase 2 is logic resolve or program execution, phase 3 is logic solve for program execution. It's executed and communicated, but before that the CPU performs diagnostics and communication tasks, communication to other similar controllers, for where the output status scan is performed, and all the stored values, they are sent to the actuators and other field output devices. The input is taken from the sensors and the output goes to the actuators. So once we have phase 4 that is completed, the entire scan again begins with phase 1, and the total time taken for this entire cycle is called scan time. And this scan time, again I just mentioned, is composed of program scan time, which is the time taken to resolve for or to solve for the control program, and the input output time, plus also included is the diagnostics whatsoever, and some idle time is there in between. This total time is called scan time. And the program scan time generally depends upon the amount of memory taken by the control program and the type of instructions used in the program. If the memory taken is fast, the scan time is lesser. If the instructions are lesser in number, then the scan time is smaller. Otherwise, it tends to become higher. Normally, the scan time can vary. It can vary from 1 millisecond to 100 millisecond depending upon the application. This is what is the typical range of scan time in most of the PLCs. Friends, we use some common ports of the PLCs to communicate with other devices. When I say other devices, I do not mean other field devices. For field devices, we already have the input modules. For field devices, we already have the output modules, right? And these kind of communication with the other devices can be, it can be part of SCADA. SCADA is supervisory control and data acquisition. It can be part of DCS. DCS means distributed control systems, or some other peripherals can be connected to a normal PLC. I can connect a monitor to PLC. I can connect, let us say, some kind of programming device to the PLC. I can connect, if nothing else, some printer to the PLC. And all these connections have to be done. Even one PLC can talk to another PLC, and so on and so forth. There are certain specific messaging commands which are available in the ladder diagram, which we shall not be discussing. It comes in the higher purview of it. But as such, if we see that even one PLC can talk to another PLC. So for all these kind of communication, we have to use some ports. So what are the ports which are normally used in case of PLCs? We will be discussing those things, and this PLC can also talk to a laptop or a desktop computer in case it's to be used for any supervisory control. There is one thing called forcing IO points and memory elements from remote terminal. It means that I may not be sitting at the point where the PLC is controlled. It's controlling the process. I may be sitting remotely. Remotely means I may be sitting two continents apart. That's not going to matter. I can specifically make one particular input or one particular output on or off. I can read the memory. I can write the memory remotely as and when required. For that, special access is to be given. It's something like someone wants to go in for an emergency stop. Just they say that the button of the nuclear launch for the nuclear missile is in the hands of president. So the president or the person who's cabinet, who's governing the president over there, who's controlling the nuclear launch of the missiles, they control these missiles remotely. So such kind of applications can also be established through PLC, provided we have proper remote controls and remote terminals where certain input and outputs can be forced, certain memory elements can be written or read remotely without going to the point of where actually process is happening. We want to link a PLC into the control hierarchy, and that contains several sizes of PLCs and computers. You can have a proper master slave kind of communication in which the master gives the command and slave obeys, and something of that sort can also happen. So all this requires the proper communication protocols to be set between PLC and other devices. The other device can also be a PLC. So we want to monitor the data, we want to set up the alarms, we want to connect printers, or we have to have some operator interface units. So all these connections are established through PLC communications. Friends, to avoid the number of to avoid the use of large number of wires, we go in for serial communication, because serial communication requires only a pair of wire as such. So all the data bits are converted into serial ports, and serial port gives the output. It goes to the input of the serial port of another device, where all these serial bits which are coming one by one are again bundled in the form of bytes, which were the original format of the data. So the common standards which you might see in this to start with is RS-232. It's used for the short distance computer communication with the majority of the computer hardware and peripherals. It has a maximum distance of 30 meter at 9600 baud rate, which is good enough for short communication. If you want faster communication and for a longer distance, then we don't go in for serial kind of thing. We go in for local area network, and it provides the physical link between all devices, plus it's also giving an overall data exchange management or protocol where each device can talk to other machine and understand the data which is received from them. So this local area network is very commonly used, especially these days the technology has evolved. So most of the PLCs making sure that the data is encrypted, making sure of the security features. Once that is ensured, then local area networks can easily be used for communication with PLC. So the speed is high, and the distance can be large, so all devices can be connected. These are some of the advantages of local area networks, and they are commonly used in business applications to allow several users to share costly software packages and peripheral equipment, such that you have printers, you can have hard disk storage, and so on and so forth. So you can have one printer, and one printer can be shared by, let us say, 10 PLCs. So they can just queue up and give the print command as and when required. Therefore, instead of having 10 different printers attached to 10 different PLCs, you can just have one printer and we can have lot of cost reduction and low maintenance and operation issues for in this case. Another kind of serial protocol which is used is RS422 and RS485. Much of this is available on net as such, but in short, I can tell you that this RS485, for example, can have a maximum distance of 1 kilometer instead of 30 meter, and similarly, it has some built-in advantages. I'm not going to go into the details of RS422 and 485 over RS232, but just to tell you that it is an evolved type of RS232. Different controllers, they have their own dedicated networks also. Some people say that, some manufacturers says that although we are giving you LAN normal kind of LAN thing, we will still be, instead of using TCP IP kind of protocol, we will be giving you a dedicated protocol which is going to be used only for our products. So the various products of Allen Bradley, they talk to each other through a network called Data Highway. Similarly, for Mitsubishi, they have their own net. For Texas Instruments, they have TI Way and so on. Similarly, we have Modbus, we have GE Network, Factory LAN, and so on and so forth. But normally, by and large, nowadays people are going to TCP IP, the normal kind of internet which is used, because it has no issues with its maintenance and upgradation and so on and so forth. Security is an issue, but that is to be taken care of. There cannot be a third party intervention for this kind, and the data must not leak or get corrupted intentionally, accidentally, or incidentally in this case. Have to have certain criteria for selecting a PLC. When you decide to buy a PLC, you have to see what is the number of logical inputs and outputs. This is the first and the foremost thing which is seen while selecting a PLC. We also have to go in for what is the type of memory we are having. We also see what are the number of special IO modules, as we have discussed in the previous slides over there. We have to take care of the scan time. If the process is very fast, then that case the scan time has to be slow. We cannot afford to have 100 millisecond where the samples are changing every 3 second, every 3 millisecond or 4 millisecond. In that case, we have to have scan time lesser than 3 millisecond, lesser than 4 millisecond in that case. Similarly, the communication requirement, as we have discussed just now, they also need to be taken into account while selecting a PLC. What is the kind of software? Whether my personnel are already trained for that software or not, whether that software is easy to use, it's making use of the ladder logic and so on and so forth. It can be programmed with a handheld device or with other kind of device. So training, upgradation, etc. All that has to be taken into account while selecting a PLC. We have to have a detailed design process, and before selecting the PLC, we just cannot randomly go in for any PLC. First of all, we have to understand the process. We have to understand the hardware and software selection of the process. We have to develop ladder logic for that, and after having developed ladder logic, we have to determine the scan times and the memory requirements. Only then we can go in for that, okay, this is the kind of PLC I want to purchase. We have several factors for evaluating the quality and performance of programmable controllers when we are going in for selecting a new unit for a particular applications, and these specifications are given below, given in the subsequent parts in one by one manner. First is the number of IO ports. This is what I have already discussed you. What there should be sufficient number of IO ports, not only to meet the present requirement, but also they should have certain slots. For example, if you're buying one rack and one rack has 8 slots, currently you require only 5 slots, then you should see that you have three spare slots, not that one more port is required and then that you have to buy another rack. that kind of thing should not be there. So you have to keep into mind some moderate future expansion and go in for buying those many number of racks and those many number of slots which are not only sufficient for our requirement right now but are also there to provide to take care of our future needs as well. Another kind of serial protocol which is used is RS422 and RS485. Much of this is available on net as such, but in short, I can tell you that this RS485, for example, can have a maximum distance of 1 kilometer instead of 30 meter, and similarly, it has some built-in advantages. I'm not going to go into the details of RS422 and 485 over RS232, but just to tell you that it is an evolved type of RS232. Memory these days is becoming very fast and bulky, so this is not much of an issue as such. You have simple applications like few relays, then the memory will be less. In case you have some arithmetic units and other programs which are to be taken into account, in that case the memory can go on the higher side. So it's always advantageous to acquire a controller that has more memory. Again, once again, we have to have memory which is not only taking care of our current needs, but these days, as you see, that even gigabyte of memory is a very simple thing to purchase. So, friends, this was a brief overview of not only the PLC operations, how the scan time happens, how the scan happens. It's also we have discussed over here about the communication with the devices and how to take care of the selection of PLC making use of these specifications. So we'll take a break here. We will continue with the more topics on programmable logic controllers or programmable controllers as we call it, or PLC in short. So this was so far about the communication, operation and specifications of PLCs. If you have any queries, in case you have any doubts, you can always contact me. They can be related to PLC or some related issues. I thank you for being with me once again. I hope you have enjoyed learning and I hope you have a very safe stay. Bye bye. Friends, we use some common ports of the PLC.